So again, my name is Isaac Baez. I am the Engagement and Inclusion Coordinator here for StarkMar, part of the System of Care. We received our 4-year grant already almost ending this September 2020, but keep your fingers crossed for us because we are reapplying for the extension for 4 more years. So wish us luck on that process. And one thing that I wanted to introduce to everybody is our Cultural Ally Program. And as you can see in the title, Building Bridges for Minority Communities. I'm gonna skip this slide. This is just the vision and mission and what we do here at StarkMar. So part of our System of Care cultural and linguistic competency initiatives, we had several things that we wanted to accomplish, from starting up a committee group, to doing a organizational self-assessment, to doing cultural competency trainings. But the part that you see here in bold, one of the things that we wanted to do was to continuous development of programs that outreach and serve traditionally underserved populations, youth and families, and provide linkage and support to existing programs. So we wanted to figure out a way that we could reach communities that are not getting services, are not coming to providers, or have multiple barriers for them to actually access any type of services, whether it's mental health, physical, or finding out resources within the community. So we got this idea of cultural broker from the Georgetown University. They have coined it and started a program called Cultural Brokers. And the definition here is they are a go-between, one who advocates on behalf of another individual or group. It is someone who acts as a liaison, or more simply, a go-between to advocate for another person. Now, cultural brokers, an important key factors that they must have is trust and respect of the community, knowledge of values, belief in child welfare practice of cultural groups, understanding of traditional and indigenous wellness and cultural practice experience within diverse communities, and experience navigating child welfare service delivery and support systems within the community. So when we started the idea about the program, we wanted to find individuals from the communities that we noticed that weren't getting the most support. But a key factor that we needed to change was the idea of the name broker. As you can see, broker is not a name that you can easily translate into any other language. When we thought of broker, we thought of something more financial than you would think of as a person who is a mediator. And if you look at Georgetown universities and look at their cultural ally programs, you'll notice that in their PDF file for the Spanish side, they actually did not have a name that translated a cultural broker into Spanish. They are mostly known out in different communities as promotoras, which is our promoters. They have other names as in like navigators in Spanish, but we decided to go with the word ally. And we thought an ally is a person, who supports, empowers, and stands up for another person or group or people. We wanted to find someone that can work with the communities, not someone who is shown as above or below the community that needs support. So we decided to go with ally. And another factor is that ally is actually easy to translate into other languages, such as in Spanish, it would be aliados cultural, which would be the name for it in Spanish. And ally is a word that can be easily found in any multiple language. So if we've decided to do more outreach in other communities that spoke different languages, we would be able to find a word that could be easily associated to the word of ally. So for the cultural ally, one of the other things that we needed to have them is to be able to not only work with StarkMar, support providers, and our System of Care program, but we also needed them to be able to work with community leaders, children, youth, and families. So their role for the cultural ally is mostly to be effective in the capacity to assess and understand their own cultural identities and values, recognize the values that guide and mold attitudes and behavior, and understand the community's traditional health beliefs, values, and practices, and changes that occur through acculturation. So their role mostly is important that they're able to communicate through cross-cultural context, interpret or translate information, advocate with on behalf of children and youth and families, negotiate health, mental health, and other services, and mediate, manage conflicts. So who are these cultural allies? These cultural allies are liaisons, cultural guide, mediators, and catalysts for change. But we wanted to do something different with what our cultural allies were going to do. So when we started digging into looking for which populations we wanted to start working with, we focused on the African American community, and as well as the Latino, Latina, Latinx, and Maya community for those who speak Spanish and Quiche, which are the two populations that we have here, major in Stark County, that are not receiving services. One other notation I wanted to add real quickly is about the whole Latino, Latina, Latinx. The reason why I say Latino, Latina, and Latinx is because to be a little bit more gender neutral, especially for those who are part of the LGBTQ+ community within the Latino community, it is important to know that using the word Latinx, it helps to do a more gender neutral way of identifying that community. But Latinx is something that's more important here in the US for the Latino community, but for those who are in their own countries, they don't recognize the word Latinx because they see that as a first world problem. They see it more as something that's not something that they're ready for, getting into more gender neutral language. So I usually put in Latino, Latina, and Latinx to make sure that we identify all community members. And as well as for the Maya community. The Maya community, even though they are part of the Latino community, they are still the natives of their home countries, and they do have different languages that they speak. The Maya community has about 22 languages. The most language that we have nearby here is Quiche. So these are the populations that we try to focus on, and the majority of them coming from the country of Guatemala. So our cultural allies versus the regular cultural brokers, we wanted them to have more of a community base, community focus, community liaison, be a cultural guide, and then also continue to be a catalyst for change. We wanted to make sure that they were reaching multiple people. These were individuals that we selected that are not individuals that are, from the super professional world. They are individuals who know their community, they live here, they've engaged with the community before. So we wanted them to be able to kind of have a more connective with the community. So we have right now currently 2 cultural allies that are working throughout the community. And they do a lot of different ways. So we have them as independent contractors. So they have a lot more freedom to do their own time. They can actually set their own schedule with the community the way they feel necessary. They can meet with them in the afternoons, on the weekends, whenever the community is needing it. They meet with them and have different conversations about just different topics about mental health. They try to talk to them about anything that they need to be able to help them understand a little bit more about whatever they want to talk about, and then actually have them get connected to any type of resources that they might need, so they can get services for mental health or physical help or any type of other services that they're looking for. Just to kind of quickly understand about that too is, right now in Stark County, suicide prevention is a big thing and major in our county, and that we're trying to focus on. But we also realize that our communities, sometimes that might not be the focus that they want to talk about. They might be wanting to talk about other things that are more concerning to them. So what if the conversations that they need support in is about drug prevention? Or what about if it's underage drinking for youth and parents don't know how to deal with a situation like that? So cultural allies have the opportunities to talk to these parents about the importance of preventing that or understanding it, and then knowing where to actually get that support and help for the community as well. This is just explaining a little bit about their roles and expectations. You know, the idea for them to provide insight and location of where the community members are mostly located at, serve as a team member with other culture allies to think about strategies, best practices, and even lessons learned about how to get the community and get them connected to services. Identifying their community's need in healthcare assistance and making sure that they're getting their referral support. Being a voice and advocate for the communities, interacting and participating in any type of cultural competency trainings or events that refer to the community, and make sure that they're conducting outreach wherever they're needing support. Here's just a simple diagram for the cultural allies. So through Stark-Mar's cultural and linguistic competency, we've identified 2 communities. We've hired 2 different cultural allies. What we're hoping for is that these cultural allies will start working and building their community allies so they can actually give referrals and information about resources to other individuals that are having struggles or barriers in finding services. And what we're also hoping for on the reverse side is that not only these individuals are getting support, but they can also tell us what are other struggles that they're having. So let's say that an individual went to go get service, but they weren't happy with the way they were treated when they walked through the door because of a cultural barrier, or they were in a session and they felt like they weren't being understood. We're hoping that we can also find that out to the communities to figure out how can we help improve our services, figure out which was the agency that they went to, talk to the agency with the culture ally about the information that they're receiving, and then trying to figure out how can we improve the agency services so that way when the community comes and gets services, they'll be able to feel a little bit more comfort in receiving that service. And like I said, from these individuals, talking to the community allies, to the culture allies, and hopefully bringing that information to our providers in Stark-Mar to seeing how and we can improve the services with the raw information from the individual, from the individuals. So just a quick explanation, these culture allies are not community health workers. We've had that question come up a lot. Are they community health workers? They sound like they're community health workers. They're not, because they're not trained, they're not certified the way a community health worker is. These are individuals that live in the community, know the community, have worked with the community before, and they're wanting to make sure that their community finds out the services or resources, information that they need to be able to help improve their community just in general. A little end part for our cultural allies. When we did start the program, we did a 2-day orientation and CLC training. We've offered them extensive extra training such as mental health first aid and for adult and youth. Again, we have our 2 cultural allies for the African American community and 1 that's working with the Latino and Maya community members. They've started in 2019 and they have over accumulated 600 hours just from training, preparation, meeting, events, and outreach throughout the community. It's amazing to actually see these individuals and come back and tell you their stories of how helpful it has been to be able to help a family understand the importance of getting services of mental health or physical, and making sure that they actually have a way to reach that. One quick story that I'll share before I end the slide is one Latino family. There were 5 siblings that the culture ally was working with, and they had no idea that that they were going to be meeting the same culture ally in the same place. So when they ended up meeting the culture ally to have a conversation about a specific topic, when they all arrived there, they were all shocked that they were all there at the same place. They all told each other different stories. They said that they were going to do something else, and it ended up that they actually wanted to have a conversation about this. And she had set up the meeting not knowing that they all knew each other and that they were family. So I think it's great to see that the community is responding that way and that they've actually really do needed that support. All right, I'm going to stop here because my 15 minutes are up. I hope I didn't go too fast, but I'm going to hand it back to the ECHO team.